Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are tearing through the latest research, studies, personal stories, all the source material, really, so you don't have to.
Yeah, we do the weighting so you get the good stuff.
Exactly. And today, we're tackling something everyone deals with, or has dealt with, or wants to deal with: work.
It's totally universal, isn't it? I mean, whether you're just starting out trying to climb that ladder or maybe thinking about a massive change, work is just... it's huge in our life.
It really is. It takes up so much of our time, our energy. And because of that, it stirs up some pretty strong feelings. It can be amazing, right? Where you find purpose, connection.
Or it can be the complete opposite. Anxiety, stress, just pure misery sometimes.
So our mission today is to really dig into what our sources say about job satisfaction, about what makes a job different from a career, and maybe most importantly,
Practical stuff. Actionable strategies. How do you find that fulfillment? How do you handle transitions, especially now when everything changes so damn fast?
we've got a great stack here. Lots of tactical advice, some really insightful anecdotes too.
Yeah.
Hopefully it helps you, if you're kind of standing at that crossroads, figure out how to move from just thinking about it
To actually doing something, taking action.
Okay, let's start where most of us did. That first job.
At the beginning. For me, it was honestly brutal. College summer job, dishwasher.
Oof. Dish pit. Tough gig.
It was hot, loud, just physically draining. And, it felt really solitary, like just me and the plates. Transactional.
Wow, yeah. Mine was more front-facing, retail, busy clothing store, lots of demanding customers.
Huh, I bet. Teaches you patience, though.
Patience, definitely. But also, like, how to read people, their body language.
Yeah.
Figuring out if they genuinely needed help or just looking for a fight.
That's a serious soft skill right there. Customer management 101.
Yeah.
And my dishwashing gig, strangely enough, it wasn't just about getting sweaty. It taught me about systems, like a bigger picture thing.
Really? How so?
Well, if I messed up loading the dish racks, right? The person pulling the clean dishes got slowed down, then the servers got delayed, then the cooks.
The domino effect.
Exactly. It clicked that even the job that seems totally disconnected, it's actually a vital part of this whole, interconnected chain. Doesn't matter if it's washing dishes or, running a giant company. Same principle.
That's a great point. Even in those early, maybe tough jobs, you're learning core stuff,
Yes.
systems, skills. But yeah, usually they're just a job.
Yeah.
Which brings us nicely to our first section. Let's try and define what we're really talking about with work today.
Right. And this distinction our sources make between a job and a career, it's fundamental to everything else we're going to talk about.
Okay, so a job. Simple definition first.
Yeah, simple. It's mostly about paying the bills. It's transactional. You do the work, you get paid. Focus is on immediate needs.
Intrinsic motivation, right?
Yeah.
Salary, benefits, hours. It fills that financial hole.
Exactly. Whereas a career, that's more of a journey. It's something you build ideally over time. There's usually intrinsic motivation involved. You're invested, you're growing. Maybe you're even passionate about it.
It's about building something like mastery or identity, not just collecting a paycheck.
Yeah. And that journey, that progression, like you said earlier, it's not that straight line anymore. Not like, our grandparents' time.
Definitely not. More like a jungle gym, someone called it. Lots of climbing sideways, maybe even backwards sometimes before moving up again.
That winding path, that jungle gym, it leads us right into these new ways of working. The models defining things now. And probably the biggest one is the freelance life, the gig economy.
Ah, yes, the gig life.
Yeah.
We looked at the experiences of a freelance writer, and the upside seems amazing on paper. That flexibility.
Huge draw. Work from anywhere. Set your own hours. Pick projects you actually like. It sounds fantastic.
Almost intoxicating, yeah.
And it's a big but.
Yeah,
That freedom comes with a hefty price tag. Instability.
right. The sources really hit that hard. Income all over the place.
Totally. The writer described it as feast or famine. Huge paychecks 1 month then. Crickets for the next 2. Requires incredible discipline.
Discipline, planning ahead, managing money like crazy, and the psychological side too, right? Handling that uncertainty.
Oh, massively. And the writer pointed out something else. You're basically wearing 3 hats all the time.
Okay, what are they?
You're the person doing the actual work, obviously, but you're also the finance department, invoicing, chasing payments, taxes, and maybe the most draining part, you're the marketing and sales team, constantly.
Always hustling for the next gig, networking, pitching, on top of the actual writing or coding or whatever it is.
Yeah, that self-discipline point is just critical. There's no boss telling you what to do. You have to be both the manager and the employee.
So routines become key. like setting up a proper workspace, having set hours, even if you technically could work whenever.
Absolutely. The source really stressed that. Rituals, structure. Otherwise, that freedom just collapses into chaos or maybe isolation. It's this constant trade-off. Freedom versus complexity and risk. That's the gig economy in a nutshell.
Whether you're freelance or full-time, though, that need to be seen to connect, it brings up networking, which some people dread.
Yeah, and we need to reframe networking, I think. Especially with these twisty career paths. It's not just, awkwardly handing out business cards at some event.
Right. It's got to be more than that.
It's about building real, actual professional relationships, maintaining visibility. Our sources kept saying it's less about what you know these days.
And more about who knows you.
Yeah.
And who trusts you enough to vouch for you.
Exactly. Integrity matters. Who can speak to your character?
Okay, so let's get tactical. You mentioned reframing. How do we distinguish between just collecting connections and doing it right?
I think one source called it shallow versus deep networking. Shallow is just racking up LinkedIn numbers. Easy.
We've all done that.
Deep networking. That's identifying people who can be real mentors or sponsors, or even just peers who get what you do, who understand your value and might actually advocate for you when an opportunity comes up, even if you're not actively looking.
That takes more effort. Consistency.
Totally. It means checking in sometimes, offering help or value yourself, not just asking for things, keeping people updated on what you're doing, how you're growing, even when you don't need a job right that second.
So when you're active and visible in your professional community, you just naturally come to mind when things happen.
You become top of mind, yeah. It's proactive reputation building.
And all this movement, this need for visibility, it's essential because the old way is basically gone, right? The whole job for life idea.
It's almost hard to believe how much it's changed. You think about, my grandfather worked at the same factory for, 40 years, got the gold watch, the pension.
Yeah, my dad too. Same company forever.
Yeah.
That loyalty, that stability, it feels like ancient history now.
It pretty much is, economically speaking. That sort of implied contract, largely dissolved.
So the reality now is, we're expected to change jobs. What, every few years?
Maybe 3 to 5 years is becoming pretty standard. And not just jobs, but entire careers. Pivoting maybe 2-3 times in a working life, that's becoming the norm.
Which sounds, honestly, a bit terrifying. All that change.
It can be unsettling, for sure. But the sources argue there's a huge upside to this constant movement. It forces you to develop 2 really powerful traits.
Okay, what are they?
Increased adaptability, number 1, and number 2, much greater resilience. Every time you switch jobs or pivot industries, you're thrown into a new context, new problems. You have to learn new skills.
Makes you stronger, more versatile in the long run.
Exactly. More valuable, ultimately.
Right. But here's the tricky part. How do you make sense of all that jumping around? How do you build a career narrative that sounds coherent and trustworthy to an employer when your resume looks like, well, you can't hold down a job?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Employers do worry about instability if they just see a list of short stints.
So you need a strategy. You can't just list the jobs.
Right. You have to frame it. You have to actively construct a story that connects the dots. One consultant in our source stack had this really neat 3-part formula.
Ooh, a formula. Okay, lay it out.
Okay, so first, identify the challenge. What's the common thread of complexity or the type of problem you are consistently solving across all those different roles?
Okay, find the theme and the problems. Got it.
Second, highlight the transferable skill. What core abilities, soft skills, hard skills did you hone in each pivot? Like project management or communication under pressure or data analysis?
The skills that carried over, regardless of the job title.
Exactly. And third, articulate the future potential. How does that combination of diverse experiences make you uniquely qualified to solve the new company's specific problems? You connect your past journey directly to their future needs.
Okay, let's make that concrete. Example time. Say someone was in marketing, then they jumped to enterprise sales. Now they want a big operations management role. Let's scatter it on paper.
Totally scatter it if you just list it. But using the formula, the narrative changes. They could say, marketing taught me deep, data-driven customer understanding challenge.
Okay.
Sales forced me to master high-stakes negotiation, hitting targets, motivating teams, transferable skill.
Right.
So the combination means I'm not just an ops manager, I'm an ops leader who gets the customer and knows how to drive revenue-focused execution with a team, future potential.
Okay, so you're not hiding the pivots. You're highlighting the unique strength that comes from the pivots. It shows learning, growth, intentionality.
Precisely. That intentional narrative is way more compelling to a modern employer than just showing you stayed put somewhere for 10 years.
Okay, so we've got the strategy for framing our winding paths.
Yeah.
Now, what about the fuel? What skills actually power this kind of adaptable career?
Right. What do you actually need in your toolkit? And the absolute cornerstone, according to pretty much all our sources, is a commitment to lifelong learning. L3, some call it.
Makes sense. Things change so fast. Technology, markets. If you stop learning, you're not just standing still. You're actually falling behind.
Seriously falling behind. It requires this constant willingness to absorb new stuff, adjust maybe even unlearn things that aren't relevant anymore.
And just look at the jobs that exist now that were like unthinkable 10 years ago.
Exactly. Think about a social media manager was maybe just emerging. Data scientist wasn't really mainstream. Drone pilot. AI ethics officer, prompt engineer.
Yeah, prompt engineer, wild. If you stopped learning in, say, 2014, you wouldn't even know what half these jobs are, let alone how to do them.
So that willingness to learn, to upskill, it's just non-negotiable. But okay, learn what? If the job titles keep changing, what's the constant? What's the anchor?
And the answer seems to be those transferable skills.
Bingo.
Yeah.
These are your bedrock abilities. They work across industries, across roles, no matter the specific tech stack or jargon of the day. Master these, and you're way more adaptable.
These are the skills that are uniquely human, right? The stuff machines, even AI, still struggle with.
Pretty much. We're talking about solid communication, real problem solving, good teamwork, critical thinking, leadership potential, creativity, and just fundamentally the ability to adapt to new situations without freaking out.
Let's circle back to that journalist example. Her industry got disrupted. Print journalism was shrinking.
Right. She didn't just become obsolete. She looked at her core transferable skills. What was she really good at?
Researching complex topics, synthesizing information, telling a clear story, communicating effectively.
Exactly. Not just writing newspaper articles. It was those deeper skills. So she pivoted, took those core abilities and became a content strategist for a tech company.
The subject changed city council meetings to software features. But the underlying skills, the ability to structure information and communicate it clearly, that was the valuable asset.
Precisely. You're building this portable toolkit of skills you can take anywhere. And within that toolkit, there's a category that gets talked about a lot, but maybe not enough deep focus. Soft skills.
Ah, the soft stuff.
Yeah.
Which often turns out to be the hard stuff.
Totally. Our sources argue these are often the real difference makers. Being able to communicate well, handle tricky situations with grace, work smoothly with others. That's what separates a technically good employee from a truly valuable team member or leader.
Can we zoom in on one? Like a really critical soft skill?
Yeah, let's pick active listening. Sounds so basic, right?
Yeah.
Just listening.
And simple.
But it's incredibly powerful. It's not just about shutting up while someone else talks. It's about really engaging, processing, understanding. It builds rapport like almost nothing else.
Okay, how do you actually practice that? How do you get better at active listening?
The sources had a couple of good practical techniques. First, try summarizing or paraphrasing what you just heard before you jump in with your own point.
So like saying, okay, so if I'm hearing you right, the main issue is X.
Exactly. So what I think you're saying is, it confirms understanding and shows you were actually paying attention. Second, ask clarifying questions. Don't just assume you get it. Drill down a bit. Could you tell me more about that specific constraint? Or what did you mean by bottleneck exactly?
Prevents misunderstandings down the line and makes the other person feel heard, builds trust.
Huge trust builder. Shows respect for their input.
Okay, so applying these skills, being willing to learn, it takes a certain mindset, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which brings us to the growth mindset and vulnerability.
This is a big one, a huge psychological hurdle for a lot of people, especially if they're used to being the expert.
That fear of looking stupid, of having to say, I actually don't know how to do that.
Yeah, that feeling is paralyzing. People get stuck because they're terrified of appearing incompetent or losing credibility.
I totally get that. The instinct is often to bluff your way through, hope nobody notices you're clueless about the new software or whatever.
But that instinct is actually really counterproductive for growth. The whole idea of a growth mindset, from Carol Dweck's work, it flips the script.
How so?
It says competence isn't some fixed thing you either have or don't. It's something you build through effort, through learning, through trying things you can't do yet. Challenges aren't threats, they're opportunities to learn.
So admitting you need to learn something isn't weakness, it's actually a sign of strength. Shows you're adaptable, proactive.
Exactly. Companies actually want people who are comfortable saying, I don't know, but I can figure it out. It signals potential. It shows you're okay being a beginner again, which is essential for growth.
What about failure, though? Growth mindset sounds great, but failure still stings. How do you handle setbacks without getting discouraged?
That's where reframing failure as data comes in. But tactically, how do you do that? One method mentioned is adapting something like an after-action review, or AAR, used a lot in the military emergency services.
Okay, an AAR. Walk me through it. How does that work after, say, bombing a presentation or missing a deadline?
Instead of just beating yourself up or trying to forget it, you structure the reflection. Ask 4 key questions. 1, what did we expect to happen? 2, what actually happened?
Yes.
3, why was there a difference between expectation and reality? Get to the root cause. And 4, what will we sustain if anything worked or improve next time?
So it forces you to analyze objectively, not just wallow. You extract the lesson.
Precisely. It depersonalizes the failure. It becomes actionable information, not just an emotional hit. It reinforces that learning from mistakes is the core skill, more than never making mistakes in the first place.
That's really practical. Turning the sting into a process. I like that.
Okay, so we've covered the landscape, the skills, the mindset. Now let's get to the heart of it, the why. The search for actual fulfillment in our work.
Yeah, this is the big one, isn't it? Because if you're waking up every single morning just dreading going to work, that feeling, it seeps into everything.
It really does. Your health, your relationships, your overall happiness. The sources were pretty blunt. Life's just too short to spend decades being miserable for 8 hours a day.
So what's driving people to make these big, sometimes scary changes? It seems to boil down to wanting to align work with values.
Absolutely. People are increasingly looking for work that feels meaningful to them, that resonates with their core beliefs, not just work that looks good on paper or pays well.
We found some really compelling stories in the materials about this, like Sarah, the lawyer.
Yeah, the corporate litigator, making bank, probably prestigious. But she hated it, hated the conflict, the adversarial nature of it all, always trying to win, which meant someone else had to lose.
It just didn't align with her values, which she realized were more about, creation, community.
Exactly. So she quit, took her savings, went through the uncertainty, and opened a little shop combined bakery and florist.
Wow. Big shift.
Huge shift. Way less money, way more physical work, probably longer hours initially. But the fulfillment came from making something tangible, something beautiful that brought people simple joy, no fighting involved.
And then there was the software engineer story.
Right. Sitting in a fancy office, coding complex stuff, earning a ton, but felt totally disconnected, miserable, staring at a screen all day.
What did you do?
Took a massive pay cut, like huge. Became a park ranger.
Seriously?
Yeah.
From software to park ranger?
Yep. His purpose shifted to conservation, being outdoors, protecting nature. The intrinsic reward, the feeling of doing something aligned with his values, just completely outweighed the lost income for him.
And the other lawyer, the one who opened a plant shop.
Yeah.
Similar theme, right. Escaping the conflict.
Yeah, she specifically mentioned wanting to get away from the adversarial nature of law. She wanted to nurture something, bring beauty and peace into people's lives instead of arguing all day. Plants felt like the opposite of litigation.
These stories really highlight that constant tension, don't they? Money versus purpose. It's the central struggle for so many people.
It's a really tough balance. And let's be real, you need to pay the bills. Purpose alone doesn't keep the lights on. But money without any sense of meaning or satisfaction, that feels empty too. It's finding that sweet spot.
But hang on. These examples, lawyers, software engineers, they probably had significant savings, right? Or maybe a partner's income. It sounds a bit privileged, maybe, to just walk away from a high-paying job.
That's a really important critique. And you're right, those dramatic, quit your job, follow your blisses narratives often gloss over the financial reality. What about the majority of people who can't afford a 60% pay cut?
Exactly. What practical advice is there for them if they feel stuck and unfulfilled but need the paycheck?
This is where a deeper level of analysis comes in, something called values mapping. Before you even think about quitting, you need to get really specific about what fulfillment actually means to you, not just some vague idea of passion.
Okay, values mapping. How does that work?
Tactically, you list out everything in your current job. What drains your energy, what actually energizes you, even small things. Then you try to connect those activities back to core emotional needs or values. Is it autonomy, creativity, helping others, problem solving, social connection?
So maybe you figure out your core value is actually mentorship. You love training people.
Right. So you don't necessarily need to quit your accounting job and, I don't know, become a life coach. Maybe you can satisfy that value within your current structure. Push for a role training new hires. Volunteer as a mentor outside work. Find ways to integrate that value.
It becomes less about a radical change and more about re-architecting your current situation to better align with what truly matters to you, using the security of the current job to carve out space for fulfillment.
Exactly. For many people, that's a much more realistic and sustainable path, especially if a big pay cut isn't feasible.
And sometimes that fulfillment comes from something simpler. Just seeing the reward of tangible impact, knowing your work actually does something.
Yeah, think about that data analyst example. Worked for a huge corporation doing complex analysis.
But her impact was like a rounding error on the company's bottom line. Felt invisible.
Totally. She felt like a tiny cog, so she left and started consulting for small local restaurants. Now, when she helps them tweak their marketing and sees their foot traffic jump 30%.
She sees the direct result. Tangible. Visible.
That immediate visible impact fueled her satisfaction way more than the bigger salary in the anonymous corporate machine.
Okay, but achieving that satisfaction, especially in roles involving people, often comes with a hidden cost. We need to talk about emotional labor.
Yes. This is so important and often overlooked. Emotional labor. It's that effort you have to expend to manage your own feelings to display the right emotions required by the job.
Like the customer service rep having to stay calm and polite while someone's screaming at them.
Exactly. Or the teacher managing a classroom full of diverse anxieties and needs while maybe feeling overwhelmed themselves. Or the nurse dealing with tragedy but needing to remain composed and supportive for families.
It's mentally and emotionally exhausting. It's real work, even though it's not listed in the job description.
And it takes a toll. The sources talk about how sustained high emotional labor can lead to things like psychological distancing, where you subconsciously detach from the people you're serving just to protect yourself, and of course, burnout.
So when you're considering a career change, especially into a helping profession, you have to be really honest with yourself about your capacity for that specific kind of emotional work.
Absolutely. What's the emotional cost? Can you sustain it? Is the fulfillment worth that specific type of drain? It needs to be part of the calculation.
Which leads us right into another big trap, the golden handcuffs.
Ah, yes. The gilded cage.
Where the job pays really well, the benefits are amazing, maybe it's got status, but you're miserable, utterly drained. But leaving feels impossible because you'd lose so much security.
You're trapped by the very things that are supposed to be good. The money, the perks. They become the bars of the prison.
Breaking out of that requires some serious, maybe uncomfortable self-assessment, doesn't it?
Intense honesty. You have to try and quantify the trade-off. What's the actual cost of staying? Can you put a price on your stress, your lost time with family, maybe even your physical health declining due to the job?
One source suggested creating a misery matrix. Sounds grim, but maybe useful.
Yeah, basically list all the pros, salary, bonus, healthcare, 401k match, whatever. Then list all the cons, stress levels, long hours, toxic environment, lack of meaning, health issues. Be brutally honest.
And if that cost column consistently feels heavier or is actively harming you, even if the benefit column looks great financially,
then you have pretty strong evidence that the handcuffs, however golden, are maybe doing more harm than good. It clarifies the real stakes.
Okay, one last point in this section. What about age? Is there an expiration date on making a big career change?
Absolutely not. Our sources were really clear on this. Age is far less important than your willingness to learn and adapt. That growth mindset we talked about, that's the key, not the number on your driver's license.
We often hear about ageism, older workers getting pushed out.
And that definitely exists, unfortunately. But the flip side is that older workers bring incredible value, decades of life experience. Think about managing complex situations, handling difficult people, navigating office politics, having deep institutional knowledge.
That's wisdom, not just experience. Contributes hugely to a diverse, effective workforce.
Totally. And we saw examples like the uncle who worked on a factory line for 30 years, then went to culinary school at 58 and became a successful chef.
Wow. Leveraging discipline from one field into a passion in another.
Exactly. It's proof that reinvention is possible at almost any stage if you have that drive, that openness to being a beginner again. Never too late.
Okay. We've done the soul searching. We've assessed the values, the emotional labor, the golden handcuffs. Maybe we've decided, okay, I need to explore something new. What's the very first practical step?
A massive reality check. Because it is incredibly easy to romanticize a different career path.
Oh, yeah. The grass is always greener. Until you get there and realize it needs mowing at 3 a.m.
Exactly. You picture the artisanal baker, right? Covered in flour, pulling out perfect loaves in a charming, sunlit shop.
Sounds lovely.
The reality, getting up before dawn, hours of repetitive, physically demanding work, dealing with hot ovens, burns, the pressure of consistency day in, day out, maybe razor-thin profit margins.
Or dreaming of being a travel photographer, jetting off to exotic places.
When the reality is probably 80% editing photos alone in a room, chasing invoices, dealing with difficult clients, and maybe 20% actual shooting, if you're lucky.
So do you need to puncture the fantasy before you commit?
Absolutely. Research saves you from making bad, potentially costly choices. Remember that person interested in urban planning, loved the idea of designing cities.
But then found out the day-to-day involved tons of complex mapping software statistics dealing with bureaucracy.
Yeah, the reality of the required skills in the competitive job market totally put them off. They realized they liked the outcome, but would hate the actual process of the job. Huge difference.
So how do you get that unfiltered real-world view without, quitting your job first?
Yeah.
Low-risk exploration.
Exactly. Start small. Dip your toe in the water while you still have the safety net of your current income.
Like taking an online course.
Perfect example. A well-regarded online course in coding or graphic design or digital marketing, or even something hands-on locally like pottery or horticulture. See if the interest survives actually learning the nitty-gritty.
Volunteering too, right?
Great low-risk option. Want to work with animals? Volunteer at a shelter on weekends. Interested in nonprofits? Help out with a fundraising event. Gives you practical experience, looks good on a resume later, and helps you see if you actually enjoy the environment.
But maybe the most powerful low-risk tool is the side hustle.
Yes, the sources really champion this. Think about that accountant who hated her day job but started an Etsy shop selling handmade jewelry.
What did that allow her to do?
3 crucial things. 1, test the actual market. Do people want to buy her stuff? 2, gain real-world business experience, pricing, marketing, customer service, inventory, taxes, all while the main paycheck still covers the rent. And 3, build up a financial buffer specifically for the eventual leap.
The key seems to be treating the side hustle like a real, albeit small, business from the start, not just a hobby.
Absolutely critical. Forces you to confront the non-glamorous realities of being your own boss before you rely on it for survival.
Okay, so you've done some low-risk testing, the interest is still there, maybe even growing. What's the next level of research, deep dive research techniques?
Right. Now you get more targeted. First up, the informational interview.
This sounds less scary than networking. The goal isn't asking for a job, it's just learning.
Exactly. You find people doing the work you're interested in, maybe through LinkedIn, alumni networks, personal connections, and ask for, say, 20 minutes of their time just to hear about their experience.
What kind of questions should you ask to make it worthwhile? Not just, what's your job like?
Good point. Prepare specific, thoughtful questions. Skip anything easily found online. Ask about the downsides. What's the least glamorous part of your day? Ask for advice. If you could go back, what skill would you tell your younger self to focus on developing for this field? Ask about challenges. What's the biggest unexpected hurdle in this industry right now?
Questions that get beyond the sales pitch and into the real lived experience.
That's where the gold is. Those real-world insights are invaluable.
Okay, and then there's the next level up from talking, shadowing. Actually watching someone do the job.
This is huge. If you can arrange it, it's maybe the best reality check there is. Takes the abstract idea and makes it concrete, physical.
Thinking about being a carpenter. Go spend a day on a job site. See the dust, the noise, the physical strain, the problem solving on the fly.
Curious about landscape architecture. Shadow someone for a day. See them dealing with clients, managing crews, handling permit issues, getting rained on.
It's the ultimate try before you buy. Reveals the hidden demands, the repetitive tasks, the specific kind of stress involved. It can either confirm your passion or wave a big red flag very quickly.
And bonus. It's also fantastic networking. If you show up, you're professional, you ask smart questions, you're demonstrating initiative and interest. That person might remember you, offer advice, maybe even think of you for an apprenticeship later. High trust connection building.
Okay, so research done, reality checked. Side hustle may be humming along. Shadowing confirmed it's not a terrible fit. You've made the decision. You're actually going to quit the safe job, the big leap. What needs to be absolutely locked down before you hand in that notice? The million-dollar question.
3 critical things, according to basically everyone we looked at. Non-negotiable. Number 1, a solid financial plan. And not just, I think I have enough saved.
It's just specific. Calculated?
Super specific. Know your burn rate, your essential monthly living costs, rent, food, utilities, insurance, minimum debt payments. Then figure out your runway. How long can you survive without any income?
And the consensus seems to be longer than you think you need.
Yeah, the number that kept coming up was an 18-month savings runway. Not 6 months. 18.
18 months of essential expenses banked. Why so long?
Psychological safety net. It means if the first 6, even 12 months of your new venture or job search don't go as planned, you don't immediately panic. You don't have to grab the first awful opportunity out of desperation. It lets you make choices from a position of strength, not fear.
Okay, 18 months runway. Got it. What's number 2?
If you're going the self-employment route, starting your own thing, you need a clear business plan. It doesn't have to be a massive formal document unless you need funding, but it needs to be a real plan.
What goes in it?
Your offering. What exactly are you selling or providing? Target market. Who are your ideal customers? Value proposition. Why should they choose you over competitors? And critically, outreach strategy. How will you actually reach those customers and make sales? You have to treat it like a proper business from day one, even if it starts tiny.
Makes sense. Think like a business owner, not just a freelancer. And number 3.
A strong support system. This might sound soft, but it's absolutely vital. Making a big change is emotionally taxing. It can be isolating.
Friends or family might not get it. Might think you're kidding.
Exactly. You need people in your corner, friends, family, mentors who believe in you, who can offer encouragement when you're doubting yourself, but also maybe a reality check when you need it. That emotional scaffolding is crucial for resilience.
And beyond your personal network, professional help can make a big difference too, like a career counselor or mentor.
Hugely valuable, especially when you're starting over or pivoting significantly. They can help you see blind spots, translate your old skills for the new context, maybe connect you with people. They provide objective perspective when you're too in it to see clearly.
Okay, so you're ready to start applying, networking for real now. We have to talk about your online presence. It's basically your digital first impression.
Non-negotiable in today's world. It's not just about having a LinkedIn profile that isn't embarrassing. Employers will Google you.
They check everything, social media.
Everything. LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram if it's public, any personal blogs or websites. Your online footprint needs to be professional, or at least not actively damaging. But ideally, it should support your transition.
How can it support it?
By showcasing your skills and interests proactively. Build a simple portfolio website. Start a blog about your new area of interest. If you want to be a graphic designer, show your designs online. If you're aiming for a writing role, have writing samples readily available. It demonstrates initiative and passion beyond just the resume.
Lets you control the narrative a bit more. Show, don't just tell.
Exactly. And finally, as you inevitably face the job search grind, rejection is part of the process. You have to internalize the idea that rejection is data.
Easier said than done. It feels personal.
It totally feels personal. But reframing it as data helps you stay objective and keep moving forward.
How do you actually use rejection as data? What's the tactic?
2 things. First, whenever possible, politely ask for feedback. Send a short thank you email after an interview rejection and ask if they'd be willing to share any specific feedback on your application or interview that might help you improve. Many won't reply, but some will, and that feedback is gold.
Okay, ask for feedback. What's the second thing?
Analyze the feedback you get, or even just the pattern of rejections using that AAR process again. What was the gap? Was it a specific skill? Was it how you came across in the interview? Was it just a poor fit for that specific company culture?
So you're constantly learning from the no's to get closer to a yes.
Exactly. It turns a demoralizing experience into a learning loop. You're refining your approach based on real-world results. That's adaptability in action. Hashtag tag outro. Wow, we covered a lot of ground there. From the big why of fulfillment to the nitty-gritty tactics of making a change, if we boil it down, the key takeaways seem pretty clear.
Yeah, first, adaptability is paramount. It's less about your current job title and more about your ability to learn continuously and leverage those core, transferable skills across different situations. Like that journalist becoming a content strategist. That's the model.
Second, self-awareness is non-negotiable. You really have to understand your own values, your tolerance for things like emotional labor, what truly motivates you, and what your actual skills are. You can't fix the problem if you don't accurately diagnose it first.
Know thyself, basically. And third, take incremental steps. Big change usually happens through a series of smaller, manageable actions. Use those low-risk methods, the courses, the side hustle, volunteering, informational interviews, to build confidence and gather real data before making the irreversible leap.
And maybe we should reframe fulfillment slightly too. It's not always about finding that one mythical passion. Sometimes it's about finding work that's fulfilling, that aligns with your values, gives you a sense of competence and impact, and is sustainable. Maybe it's not fireworks every day, but a steady sense of meaning.
That feels more achievable, less pressure than finding the one true passion.
Right, because the pressure is real. Those golden handcuffs feel heavy. The fear of instability, of failure. It's powerful. It keeps so many smart, capable people stuck in jobs that are just slowly crushing their spirit.
Which brings us to that final thought, that provocative closer for you, the listener.
Yeah. While changing careers definitely involves risk, financial risk, stability risk, the risk of the unknown, there's another risk we often downplay.
The risk of staying put.
Exactly. The risk of staying in a job that makes you genuinely unhappy. The risk of looking back years from now with deep regret. The risk of regret.
That's the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
And only you can decide which risk feels heavier, which risk is ultimately worth taking.
So maybe the call to action is just start exploring. Gather your own data. Take one small step today toward figuring out which risk makes more sense for you.
Choose the risk that might lead to a more fulfilling life.
Go find your fulfillment. Or at least start the search.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive. Welcome back to the deep dive. So, last time, we really got into the weeds on individual career changes, didn't we?
We did, talking about, how people actually make those big shifts, find skills they didn't know they had, and link it all back to what they value.
Yeah, and it felt like a really useful conversation.
For sure, but it also kind of set the stage, I think, for something bigger. Because while people are trying to adapt, the whole landscape of work, the structure of it, is just completely changing underneath them.
Right.
So we realized maybe the focus shouldn't just be how you change your career. It needs to be about how careers themselves are being fundamentally reshaped, like around you, whether you're planning a change or not.
Exactly. Okay, so that's the mission today then.
Yeah.
Let's unpack this massive shift. Because we've been digging through, well, a mountain of recent research, expert takes, stuff about the big structural, tech, and even behavioral changes hitting the global workforce.
And it's not just, the usual ups and downs. The sources are pretty clear. This feels like a permanent break from that old industrial era way of working.
Yeah, a real divergence.
So our deep dive today is basically trying to give you the cheat sheet for this new world of work.
Okay.
We're pulling out the most crucial bits about, the death of the traditional career path, that whole linear thing.
Right.
We'll look hard at the biggest game changers the research points to, remote work, the gig economy, and of course the elephant in the room, AI. And then really zero in on what skills you actually need now, the human stuff that supposedly keeps you relevant, future-proofs you.
So for you listening, what's the bottom line here? The core idea we're exploring is that the picture of, finding one stable 9-to-5 office job, staying 40 years, climbing that single ladder.
Yeah, the Gold Watch retirement plan.
Exactly. That's just vanishing.
Yeah.
For a huge and growing chunk of the workforce, it's becoming a historical artifact. So we need to get practical. What does that mean for your day-to-day, your tech skills, your finances, when that bedrock disappears?
And this isn't just a tech bro thing in Silicon Valley, right?
No, not at all.
It's hitting everyone. Remote accountants, freelance designers, project managers. Everyone has to rethink what stability even looks like now. We need to shed those old assumptions. So let's start with what's actually fading away.
Okay, so the first thing that really leaps out from all the material is just the sheer speed of this change. I mean, the world of work today looks so drastically different than it did even, say, 10 years ago.
Oh, completely. It's not incremental. The sources talk about the 2020s really marking a clean break from those 20th century norms we all grew up with.
And what's really striking is how fast that idea of corporate stability just kind of crumbled.
Yeah, that old promise. For generations, especially after World War II, the deal was pretty straightforward. You give a company your loyalty, your time.
Right, you put in the years.
And in return, they give you job security, benefits, maybe a pension, a predictable path upwards. That whole social contract, that stability myth, it's been eroding for ages, sure, with globalization, focus on shareholders. But the last few years, it feels like it's functionally dissolved for many.
And it's not just companies backing away, right? The sources suggest workers are changing too. Their loyalty isn't automatically to the company anymore.
Exactly. It's shifting. It's shifting towards like personal growth, building your own skills, maintaining your own autonomy.
Because if the company won't guarantee your future,
Then you have to. Your skills, your network, that becomes your real portable asset. That's the only security you truly own.
which leads directly to the decline of that long-term single company career.
Absolutely. The stats are pretty stark. Average job tenure in many professional fields is down to, what, 4 years? Less in tech sometimes.
Ah.
It means everyone, even if you're a full-time employee right now, kind of needs to think like a consultant. Always ready for the next thing. Always building your own value proposition.
Okay, so this isn't just happening in a vacuum. It's being pushed by specific forces. When we look at the sources for the biggest, most visible driver that kick this all into high gear.
It's got to be remote work, right? The consensus points right there. Remote and hybrid models.
Yeah, overwhelmingly. And look, everyone thinks pandemic.
Of course. That was the massive accelerator, no question. Force the issue.
But the research is clear. This trend was already bubbling under the surface. Companies were already dabbling in virtual tools, outsourcing flexible hours.
Right, trying to cut real estate costs, tap into talent pools outside their immediate city. The tech was getting there.
The pandemic just basically forced a global, unplanned pilot program on everyone overnight.
And that pilot proved two huge things. One, yeah, productivity didn't just collapse for most knowledge work, it held up. And two, workers, by and large, really like the flexibility. A lot.
So now that millions have shown they can do the job from anywhere.
You can't really put that genie back in the bottle, it's out. And that shift in where work happens, it changes everything else. Benefits, management, how teams connect.
It really feels like the first big domino. Once location isn't fixed.
The door swings wide open for everything else. More contract work, AI helping out, people demanding flexible deals. You really can't overstate how much just decoupling work from a specific building has rewritten the rules.
Okay, let's dig into these new norms then. Because it used to be simple. 9 to 5, in the office, 5 days a week. That was the default.
Right. And now, fully remote, hybrid schedules, these aren't just fancy perks anymore. For a lot of jobs, they're becoming standard parts of the offer, almost an expectation.
That's a huge structural change. And the sources, they really break down the good and the bad, the trade-offs involved here.
They do. And the obvious win, the one everyone talks about, is flexibility and no commute.
Yeah, the commute, giving people back, what, potentially 10, 15 hours a week? That's massive.
It's a huge return on time, undeniable. But then you get the trade-offs. And it's more than just bumping into colleagues at the coffee machine.
Right, we touched on that spontaneity thing, but there were also like massive operational headaches for companies, weren't there?
Oh.
Especially early on.
Oh, absolutely. The research highlights the enormous strain on IT departments. Suddenly, you've got thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people logging into secure company networks from their home Wi-Fi using personal laptops.
Security nightmare.
Total nightmare. Huge investments needed in VPNs, multi-factor authentication, figuring out how to manage all those devices remotely, securely.
Wait, managing personal devices.
Yeah.
Doesn't that get into tricky privacy territory? Did the sources talk about like monitoring software?
They did, yeah. And that's a huge point of contention. Some companies definitely rolled out software to track keyboard activity, mouse movements, tattletaleware. And predictably, it just bred resentment. Massive backlash. Felt like micromanagement, completely undermined the trust you need for remote work to function.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The smarter companies figured out pretty quick. You had to measure output, results, not keystroke.
Output, not activity. Okay. But let's go back to the human side.
Yeah.
That spontaneity problem. You mentioned the software developer example from the sources, working hybrid.
Right. So this developer, they liked having remote days for focused coding, that deep work.
Makes sense.
But the hybrid setup created its own weirdness. People would come in on the designated office days, but then spend half the day on Zoom calls anyway because other team members chose not to come in that day.
Huh. So you're in the office,
Yeah.
but still talking through a screen.
Exactly. You still miss out on that unplanned, casual chat in the hallway or sketching an idea on a whiteboard together, that quick, informal collaboration.
That stuff is gold, and it's really hard to replicate online. The sources really hammer home the challenge of isolation too, especially for people who are fully remote or freelance, like the writer example. They called it the tyranny of the silent screen.
Yeah, and even for a writer, someone maybe used to working alone, the research showed it takes a toll when the whole social structure of an office just evaporates. When your office is your living room, suddenly you need intense self-discipline, not just for work, but for staying connected to other humans. You can't just rely on bumping into people.
So the advice is, you have to be deliberate. Schedule connection.
Pretty much. You can't wait for chance encounters. You have to build them in. The sources mention things like scheduling virtual coffee breaks or having team co-working hours on video, even if you're not actively talking, just to feel that presence.
Interesting. Intentional connection, not accidental.
And this whole discussion leads straight into this idea that's kind of replaced work-life balance. Now everyone's talking about work-life integration.
Right. Balance implied two separate things you kept apart, like on scales.
Yeah. And that's just impossible now, isn't it? Work is on your phone, in your pocket, 24/7. It's literally in your living room.
That's a massive mental shift. So how do people avoid just burning out completely in that always-on culture?
Well, the sources really stress the need for, again, intentional boundaries, but digital ones, and embracing asynchronous work.
Okay, async, meaning not everyone needs to be online at the same time.
Exactly. And setting clear rules, like telling your team, I don't check messages after 6 p.m., or blocking out focus time on your calendar that everyone respects, like a real meeting.
So the structure the office building used to provide, like physically leaving work behind, that's gone.
Right.
And the individual now has to build that structure themselves internally through discipline and really clear communication.
It's a huge ask. And that need for self-management, it perfectly sets up the next big shift we need to talk about, the rise of the independent worker.
Yeah, building directly on that need for more self-discipline. The second huge structural change is this explosion in non-traditional work, the gig economy, right? More and more skilled people working project to project, contract to contract.
It feels like a natural next step, doesn't it? Once you realize you can work remotely for company A, the question becomes, well, why not company B and C too? So you have workers wanting flexibility and companies wanting agility, maybe lower fixed costs.
And that mix leads to this idea of the portfolio career.
Exactly. I like that term, portfolio career. It sounds deliberate.
It does. Break that down for us. What does it really mean?
Okay, so essentially, you stop thinking of yourself as just an employee. You become, well, a business of one, a service provider.
Right.
You curate this portfolio, different clients, maybe different types of projects, multiple income streams. Your career isn't about climbing a ladder anymore. It's about making your portfolio more valuable, more diverse. You're like your own little specialized agency.
Okay, that sounds like amazing control. You pick the projects, set your hours, negotiate your rates directly.
Total control, potentially. But, and this is the huge but, the research emphasizes it comes with way, way more responsibility and a lot more risk, especially financial risk.
That's the trade-off. Explain that responsibility part.
Well, think about it. When you're running your business of one, you're suddenly the CEO, figuring out your strategy. You're the marketing department, constantly finding the next gig. Your finance, handling invoices and taxes. Your HR, sorting out your own insurance. And you're also the one doing the actual work.
Wow. Yeah, all the stuff a regular company handles behind the scenes.
It all lands squarely on your shoulders, every single bit.
Let's really drill into the money side, because that's often the scariest part for people thinking about this jump.
Yeah.
Moving from being an employee, a W-2,
Right,
to being an independent contractor, 1099. The financial admin gets way more complicated.
it really does. And this is crucial for anyone listening who's considering it. When you're W-2, your employer takes out taxes for you, federal, state, local, and they pay half your Social Security and Medicare taxes, the FICA taxes.
Okay.
When you're 1099, independent, all of that is now on you, 100%.
Meaning you pay both the employee and the employer's share of those payroll taxes.
Correct. It's often called self-employment tax. And you can't just forget about it until tax day in April.
No, you have to pay quarterly, right? Estimated taxes.
Exactly. Which means you need to be constantly tracking your income, your expenses, forecasting what you'll owe. If you mess up, the penalties can be nasty.
So you need serious financial discipline just to handle the tax burden, like setting aside a big chunk of every payment.
Definitely. Rule of thumb is often 30%, maybe even more depending on your state and income, just parked in a separate account ready for tax time. It's a level of money management most W-2 employees never have to worry about.
Okay, taxes are huge. What about the safety net? That's the other big worry with the gig economy.
This is probably the biggest trade-off, the real cost of that control we talked about. You lose the guarantees.
Like what specifically?
Well, two main things jump out from the sources. First, guaranteed income protection. So no paid sick days, no paid vacation. If you don't work, you don't earn, period.
That's pretty stark. Very immediate vulnerability.
Yeah. And second, retirement savings. No company 401k plan, no employer match. That potential free money towards your retirement just disappears.
Okay, so if that's gone, what do independent workers do? How do they replace that safety net for retirement? The sources must have suggestions.
They do. You have to set up your own retirement plans. For freelancers or solo business owners, the research often points to two main options, especially if you're earning a decent amount.
Which are?
The SEP IRA, that's Simplified Employee Pension, or solo 401k.
Okay.
Both of these let you, acting as both the employer and the employee of your own business, contribute much larger amounts than you could to a standard IRA. It helps you try and make up for that missing company match.
Got it. So you basically become your own benefits manager. That's a whole other job.
It really is. And the last piece of that puzzle, maybe the trickiest, health insurance.
Yeah. Trying to get health insurance without being part of a company group plan.
It's a massive hurdle, financially, administratively. You're either trying to navigate the individual marketplace, which can be complex and expensive, or maybe finding coverage through professional groups, which isn't always stable.
So a lot of freelancers rely on a spouse's plan if they can.
Huge numbers do, yeah. It's almost like outsourcing that risk management to their partner's employer.
Okay, so wrapping up this gig economy piece. The key skill isn't just being good at your actual job. It's this intense level of self-discipline. Managing your time, your cash flow, taxes, insurance, retirement, all without that traditional employer safety net.
The pressure is definitely higher, but the sources also stress for those who can master it. The freedom and autonomy can be incredible.
Okay, so we've got these big structural shifts where we're becoming more remote and flexible, leading more people towards portfolio careers.
Right.
But now we layer on top of that the huge technological disruptor that's just pouring gasoline on the fire. AI, artificial intelligence.
Yeah, you absolutely cannot have this conversation about the future of work without tackling AI head on. It feels like the biggest accelerant of change right now.
And the research really highlights this, like split personality in how we talk about it, right? This necessary duality.
Totally. On one hand, there's this widespread fear, and sometimes it feels pretty legitimate that AI is just going to automate jobs away wholesale. But running right alongside that is this recognition that AI can also be an incredibly powerful tool, an assistant, something that can augment what humans do, make us more productive.
We have to hold both ideas at once.
Yeah.
It's a threat to some jobs, definitely, but also a massive opportunity for others, or for changing how jobs are done.
Exactly.
I want to push back a little on the optimistic augmentation view, though. If AI starts handling all the routine stuff, the entry-level tasks, the plumbing, as some call it,
Okay.
doesn't that just raise the bar for getting any job? Doesn't it potentially squeeze out people in the middle who use those routine tasks to learn and grow? Did the research talk about that stratification?
It did, yeah. And that's a really critical point, this idea of the hollowing out of the middle.
Right.
If AI can instantly do basic research summaries, categorize data, or write simple code snippets tasks that junior analysts or programmers used to cut their teeth on,
Then how do they learn?
exactly. The learning path changes. The research suggests that people who thrive might be those who bypass some of that manual grunt work and learn quickly how to manage the AI's output. They become less the doer, more the AI supervisor or editor right from the start.
That's a key difference.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get specific. Where are we seeing AI actually augmenting work, not just replacing it? You mentioned the software developer example again. With specific tools, maybe?
Yeah, so for developers, the sources mention tools like GitHub Copilot pretty frequently.
Okay, what's that?
It's an AI trained on just mountains of code. It can suggest lines of code as you type, write basic functions for you, even spot common bugs. It's like having an AI pair programmer.
So the human developer isn't obsolete.
No, not at all. They're freed up. They can focus more on the really complex stuff, the overall system design, understanding what the user actually needs, tackling novel problems that require real creativity. The AI handles the repetitive boilerplate code, makes them faster, reduces the boring parts.
Okay, so it boosts their capacity for higher level thinking.
We see similar patterns elsewhere, like in law or medicine. AI tools can churn through thousands of legal documents or medical studies in minutes, pulling out relevant info, drafting summaries.
Thus, it would take a paralegal or researcher days.
Right. Then the human lawyer or doctor takes that AI-generated summary and applies their judgment, their experience, their ethical considerations. They handle the client interaction, the negotiation, the final decision.
What about creative fields? Writing, design.
Mhm.
Generative AI can write articles, make images. Where's the human value there?
That's a hot topic. The consensus seems to be shifting towards the human as the prompt engineer, the editor, the curator, the quality control. The AI might generate a first draft or a bunch of visual options, but the human provides the specific direction, the unique voice, the emotional nuance, checks it for accuracy, ensures it fits the cultural context, makes sure it actually works strategically.
Quality control seems huge because AI just scrapes data, right? What about issues like plagiarism or using copyrighted material? Did the research mention those IP risks?
Oh yeah, massive emerging problem. Because these models are trained on vast data sets, sometimes including copyrighted stuff, their output can accidentally mimic or even directly lift protected material.
So if you use AI to help write code or an article,
You, the human, are likely still responsible for making sure it's original and doesn't infringe on anyone's intellectual property. That adds a whole new layer of vetting you need to do.
okay, so boiling it down, the jobs most likely to be automated aren't necessarily low-paying ones. They're the ones that are highly repetitive and predictable.
Exactly. If a task follows a clear set of rules, involves routine data processing or predictable patterns, it's vulnerable. Doesn't matter if it's data entry or basic contract review.
So the key for any worker in any field is adaptability and seeing AI not as the enemy coming for your job.
But as a potential partner, a tool to learn, to leverage, whether it's ChatGPT, Copilot, or some industry-specific AI modeling software, you've got to figure out how to work with it.
That really feels like the core message. If you just keep doing the 60% of your job that AI can learn to do easily, you're making yourself redundant.
Right.
But if you figure out how to use AI to handle that 60% faster, and you shift your focus to the 40% that needs creativity, critical judgment, human connection, then you become more valuable.
Precisely. This whole tech disruption basically forces us to double down on what makes us uniquely human.
Okay, so that idea of partnering with AI, of focusing on the human element, brings us right to this concept of the new value proposition at work.
Yeah. Because if tech can handle the routine stuff, the data crunching, the predictable tasks, then what we offer has to shift. It's less about just knowing things.
Right. The old idea was knowledge is power. Memorize the facts, know the procedures.
But the research suggests the new maxim is more like application is power.
Explain that.
Well, information is basically free now, right? It's everywhere online. AI can summarize anything instantly. So just knowing a fact doesn't make you valuable anymore. The real value is in being able to use that information, to connect dots, to apply knowledge in new situations, to solve problems that don't have a clear answer in the data, to create something original.
So being an expert changes. It's less about having the whole textbook memorized.
And more about judgment, synthesis, applying knowledge creatively. That's why you hear this constant drumbeat about lifelong learning. It's not just a nice to have anymore. It's like mandatory for staying relevant.
Which leads us straight to why these so-called human skills are becoming so incredibly valuable. If AI handles the data analysis, humans have to handle the so what and the now what.
Exactly. The context, the nuance, the relationships, the ethical calls, the stuff that's really hard, maybe impossible to automate. That's the core value.
Okay, let's list them out. What are the core human skills the research keeps highlighting as essential for the modern worker?
All right, number one is usually critical thinking.
Okay, but what does that mean now? It used to mean analyzing data logically, but AI can generate incredibly convincing arguments, even if they're flawed or biased. So how does critical thinking change?
It has to evolve into something more like critical judgment. It's not just analyzing the information presented, it's questioning the source of the information.
Oh, okay.
When an AI gives you a report or an answer, you need the skepticism to ask, what data was this trained on? Are there hidden biases? Does this conclusion actually make logical sense, or does it just sound good? You have to vet the output itself, discerning truth from sophisticated BS, basically.
Got it. Critical judgment. What's next?
Creativity. And the sources are usually quick to point out this isn't just about painting or writing poetry.
Right, in a business context.
Yeah. It's about generating novel solutions, coming up with ideas or approaches that aren't just optimizing the existing way, but are fundamentally new. AI is great at finding patterns in old data. Humans are better at imagining things that haven't existed before.
Like combining ideas from different fields.
Exactly. That combinatorial creativity. Taking a concept from, say, logistics and applying it to improve patient flow in a hospital, AI can optimize the current system. Humans have to invent the next system.
Okay, third skill.
Communication. Sounds basic, right? But it's actually getting more complex.
How so? In a world of remote teams, Slack messages, Zoom calls.
It means being good across multiple channels. You need killer written communication skills for asynchronous work. Clear, concise, unambiguous. You need persuasive presentation skills, even over video. And crucially, you need cross-cultural communication skills.
So your team could be anywhere.
Exactly. Different time zones, different cultural norms, different native languages. Being able to convey ideas clearly, empathetically, and avoiding misunderstandings is absolutely vital when you don't have those in-person cues.
Makes sense. And the last one, often called the ultimate human skill.
Emotional intelligence. EQ. And again, this is way more than just being nice.
It's strategic.
Totally strategic. It's about understanding your own emotions and how they impact your work, but maybe even more importantly, it's about accurately reading and responding to the emotions of others. Like knowing how to motivate a remote team member who's feeling isolated, or navigating a really tense negotiation with a client purely over video, relying only on tone and subtle facial expressions, or building trust within a team that rarely meets face-to-face.
So when you put it side by side, AI is amazing at analyzing that spreadsheet, finding correlations, predicting outcomes based on data.
Yep, quantitative stuff.
But the human is essential for the qualitative. For building trust, for mentoring, for managing conflict, for leading through uncertainty, for making ethical judgments when the data isn't clear.
Exactly. Resolving a dispute between two star performers who just clash. Leading a team through a crisis where calming nerves is as important as making decisions. AI can't do that effectively. That requires empathy, finesse, real human connection.
So your professional value is increasingly tied to how well you leverage those distinctly human abilities. #7, the future-proofing strategy, actionable advice for the learner.
Okay, so we've painted this picture of huge change, remote work integration, portfolio careers taking off, AI becoming embedded everywhere.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in. So the big question for you listening has to be, okay, what do I actually do about all this? What are the practical steps I can take right now to stay afloat, to stay resilient?
And luckily, the sources don't just describe the problem. They offer a pretty consistent 3-step strategy, real, actionable stuff.
All right, let's break it down.
Yeah.
Step 1 seems to be about facing the tech head on.
Step 1, embrace technology as a partner. And the key word there is embrace. It's not just don't be scared of AI. It's actively get your hands dirty with it. Move from just reading articles about AI to actually using the tools. The advice is literally schedule time for it. Like, an hour every Friday morning, call it your tech sandbox time.
Okay, sandbox time. I like that.
And in that time, you actually open up ChatGPT or try out that AI coding assistant or whatever tool is relevant to your field, and you deliberately try to use it for a task you normally do manually.
Even if it feels awkward at first.
Especially if it feels awkward. The goal isn't to be an expert overnight. It's to get curious. Ask yourself, how could this thing make my most tedious, repetitive task 10 times faster?
Focus on efficiency for the boring stuff.
Exactly. By learning to use these tools effectively, you're not just surviving, you're potentially multiplying your own productivity, which then frees you up to spend more time on those high-value human skills we just talked about, the strategy, the creativity, the relationships. Think of AI as a collaborator, not a replacement.
Okay, partner with tech. Got it. Step 2 seems to shift focus to people and perception.
Step 2, build your brand and network intentionally. This comes up again and again. In this new landscape, your reputation and your connections are arguably more critical than a perfectly polished resume.
Why more critical now?
Because in a world where work is more remote, more project-based, more fluid, opportunities don't just land on your desk via an internal promotion memo. They come through who knows you, who trusts you, who thinks of you when a relevant project comes up. Referrals, reputation, reach.
So your personal brand isn't just a vanity thing, it's functional.
It's your marketing department, and it needs to be more than just a static LinkedIn profile. The advice is to actively cultivate it. Maybe that means writing short articles on a niche topic you know well, sharing insights online, contributing to discussions in your field, maybe working on open source projects if you're a developer.
Be visible for your specific expertise.
Exactly. So when people need that specific skill or insight, your name comes to mind. And your network, that's not just for finding leads. It's your support system, your source of advice, maybe even your safety net if one gig ends suddenly. Strong connections provide resilience in a volatile market.
Okay, intentional branding and networking. Makes sense. And the third piece, it feels like the most constant one.
Step 3, continuous and adaptable learning. The message is blunt. Never stop learning, period. But, and this is important, the sources clarify, this doesn't necessarily mean going back for another 4-year degree.
Which isn't practical for most people.
Right. Learning needs to be faster, more targeted, more accessible. The research really highlights the value of things like micro-credentials.
For credentials, like badges or certificates for specific skills.
Exactly. Platforms like Coursera, EDX, LinkedIn Learning, specialized industry training, they offer shorter courses focused on a very specific in-demand skill, like advanced Google Analytics, or AI prompt engineering for marketers, or cloud security fundamentals.
So very focused, very practical.
Yeah, they signal to the market quickly, I've learned this specific applicable skill. It's about surgical skill acquisition, not just general knowledge accumulation.
And the ultimate goal of all this learning isn't just to collect badges, right?
The real goal is to cultivate adaptability. That's the meta skill.
Adaptability.
Because the tech will keep changing. The specific AI tool you master today might be old news in 18 months. But if you've trained your ability to learn quickly, to integrate new information, to figure out new tools and apply them to new problems, that ability is what keeps you resilient. That's what makes you truly future-proof, no matter what comes next.
Adaptability, intentional visibility, and partnership with technology. Okay, that feels less like just job advice and more like the essential survival kit for navigating this new world of work. Hashtag #TechTechDate. Outro.
So yeah, we've covered a ton of ground today. We've looked at these huge forces really reshaping how we all work, that shift towards work-life integration, not balance, pushed by remote and hybrid models, the rise of the independent professional, the portfolio career with all its freedom and responsibility, the absolute necessity of seeing AI as a partner, not just a threat.
Yeah.
And ultimately, how all of this makes those core human skills, judgment, creativity, communication, EQ, more valuable than ever before. They're the non-automatable core.
And throughout this whole deep dive, the underlying message seems consistent. That old, predictable, single-employer career track, it's fading fast.
It really is. But interestingly, the overall tone from the research, from the experts we looked at, isn't doom and gloom. It's actually surprisingly optimistic.
Yeah, I felt that too. Less like a threat, more like an opening.
Exactly. This massive disruption shouldn't just be seen as something scary, something that makes us want to cling to the past. It's being framed as a gateway, an opportunity.
An opportunity for what, though?
An opportunity based on individual agency. The sources often conclude by saying, this new environment actually lets people design careers that are potentially more flexible, more independent, and maybe even more fulfilling than what was possible before.
Because you have more control over your time, where you work, the projects you take on.
Precisely. More autonomy if you can navigate the challenges.
Okay, so that leaves us with a final thought for everyone listening to mull over. A provocative question, maybe.
Lay it on us.
All right. Given everything we've discussed, information is everywhere. AI can do all the predictable stuff.
Yeah.
How will you personally leverage your uniquely human skills, your critical judgment, your creative spark, your ability to connect and communicate to define the value that only you can bring to whatever you do next? What's your irreplaceable human edge?
That really is the challenge, isn't it? And maybe the most exciting professional experiment we all get to run now, figuring that out.
Something to think about. Until next time on The Deep Dive.
Keep digging deeper.